Hello, in this video we're going to be tuning up a Riello oil burner on a Buderus 2154. This is our burner, and as said before, it's a Riello. The boiler is recently fired, so it's still warm. When you service a heating boiler, when you clean it, you really don't want to service it while it's cold. So because this is warm, what's going to happen when we start cleaning it with the soot brush is I won't say most, but a lot of the particles of soot are actually going to just get sucked up the chimney. The very first thing you should do on any tuning of any boiler is shut it off. So the first thing we're going to do is have a look at under the cover, and to do that on the Riello is quite easy. We just loosen up 3 screws. You may have noticed I'm wearing gloves. The smell of fuel oil can be difficult to get out of your hands for a few days after you've done a tune-up, so I always wear gloves. It minimizes the smell. I always get a little bit of oil on my hands anyway, even when I wear the gloves, but it's much less with the gloves. So now our cover is off, and here we have our primary control, and inside here is our nozzle assembly, and here's our fuel pump, and here's our fuel line. So this line supplies the fuel to the fuel pump. The fuel pump pressurizes the fuel, sends it to the nozzle. And this pump pressure is set at 145 psi for this burner. On this burner, I just use the factory presets, and everything's all OEM. So based on my experience, you should always go with the recommended nozzle for these Riellos. They're recommending a Delavan on this, and that's all I use. I have replaced nozzles on this type of boiler before, and had a lot of problems with other nozzles, so I always stick with what they recommend. One in particular is the Hago nozzles. For some reason, on every Buderus Riello boiler I've installed, I've had a problem with the Hago nozzles. So I always, ever since those problems were discovered, I only use Delavan. And it wasn't one job, it was a few jobs, until it finally occurred to me that it's the actual nozzle that was giving me problems. So I always use Delavan with the Riello. Now, what's nice about these Buderus is this whole cover just comes off. And I'm doing this with one hand because I'm holding the camera with the other. And this conceals our combustion chamber. And basically all we have to do to access the combustion chamber is loosen this bolt and loosen that bolt. Not just loosen it, but remove it. So we're going to loosen these bolts. And you should always use a flat-faced wrench, never pliers or vice grips. If I see any of you using a vice grip or pliers to remove a hex bolt on a boiler, I'm going to personally come over there and kick your ass. This boiler was installed by me originally, and one of my trademarks is whenever I install the bolts to any of the combustion chambers or even the burner, I always coat lightly with some Never-Seez, and because I've had some boilers over the years that you just can't get the bolts out of. So, based on my experience, I always lightly Never-Seez everything. So we have the chamber open. These Buderus are 4-pass systems for the flue gases. That means the flue gases go back and forth 4 times. As you can see,
it looks pretty clean for not being serviced in a whole year. So on real bad boilers, all these passages are just totally packed, but this boiler is running really clean, so it's not too bad. That's basically what we expect after a year. This is actually on the light side. I've seen them a lot worse after 1 year. And ooh, that looks pretty ugly though. This here needs some cleaning and scrubbing. And so this is basically where the flame comes out of. As you can see, there's 2 electrodes and a nozzle, and that's where the flame comes out of. So what we're going to do is I remove the irons that are inside the Buderus, and we're going to brush these down, clean them up, and then I have some special soot spray that'll spray down once it's all cleaned and vacuumed. And speaking of vacuums, we vacuum these boilers with a soot vac. You never want to use a regular vacuum because the particles of the soot are so fine that they will just pass right through it. So this is a special soot vac that we use just for soot. Seasonal tune-ups on a heating system consist of replacing the nozzle and cleaning the electrodes, cleaning out the soot out of the boiler and the combustion chamber, vacuuming it out, and also replacing the oil filter. Also checking the combustion efficiency with a combustion efficiency test kit. And there's a couple of different ways you can do that. You can do it with a kit that comes with a CO2 detector and a pyrometer. That's the old-fashioned way. Another way is they have these electronic gadgets that you can just